Okay, hi everybody. Corey Still from StillSpinning.ca, and today I'm lucky enough to be talking with Tommy Clufetos, who has drummed for a whole bunch of awesome people like Alice Cooper and Ted Nugent and Rob Zombie, Ozzy. He did the last couple of tours for Black Sabbath, so really an accomplished drummer, and now he's back drumming with the Dead Daisies. He has a new album called Tommy's RockTrip coming out May 7th. And so we're going to talk to him about that, maybe hit a little bit of the Dead Daisy stuff. So, thanks, Tommy. Thanks for joining.
Hey, my pleasure. I see what you did there, Corey. Still standing.
Still
see, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work with my last name, would it?
No, you probably wouldn't. You probably wouldn't, exactly.
But anyway, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So your new album comes out on Friday. It's really awesome, really raw, really guitar oriented, kind of a '70s feel to it. Is that kind of the feel that you were trying to go for?
Exactly the feel I was going for.
Well, you nailed it then, because it's pretty set. I was immediately trying to draw it back into that. It's like the kind of music that me and the people that listen to me and follow me, they actually love that too.
Canadians know how to rock. Whenever I started playing Canada, when I was, even before I was a teenager, it was always a little more wild. I remember playing a gig in Canada. Maybe it was across the border in one of those Ontario,
Windsor or something like that,
close to Detroit, even further out.
Okay.
Windsor. And I remember it was like in a big, it almost like an aircraft carrier. It was all tin, and there was a big party, and I was like maybe 12 years old, and all they had to drink was beer. Like literally, there wasn't a Coke in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why need Coke when you have beer, right?
Well, exactly. I guess it's your guys' water.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just remember it was a crazy gig, and for the last 30 years, they've been crazy gigs whenever I come up there. So I love Canada.
Cool. Well, we look forward to seeing you again whenever you venture back to, north of the border. So
yeah.
So what drove you to make this record? Like to go out and to have a solo record of sorts with Tommy's RockTrip.
Well, I don't think it's a solo album. It's just a rock album with my buddies. And to me, it doesn't sound like it. Just sounds like a rock band.
Yeah.
So I just put together a rock band, and we went and jammed at my house and rehearsed, and then went and recorded the tunes. So to me, that's what a band does.
Right.
You know what I mean? That being said, it was under my tutelage, if you could put it that way.
Yeah.
I was the conductor of rock and roll.
Cool. And did you guys as a band write all the songs then?
No, I wrote like 95% of it.
Oh, cool.
When this pandemic hit, there was nothing going on, and after a few months, I said, I'm going crazy. I don't get, I'm stuck in these. Right now, I'm sitting in my jam room where I play drums every day, and after a while, you go, man, it'd be nice to play for some guys.
Right.
And I got this offer to make a record, and I go, well, why not? I've never ever done this. I'm 41 now. I was maybe 40 at the time. I go, I've never done anything on my own. I totally love what I never had the want to be honest with you. So, because I'm totally creative, fulfilled playing in other people's bands, and to me, I'm very creative when I play the drums with them. Yeah. Even if it's something that was recorded before, I get creatively fulfilled doing my thing in somebody else's organization.
Right.
So that being said, there was nothing going on, and this came up, and I go, why not? I kind of looked at it as an experiment for myself.
Cool.
To see if I could even write a song. Could I write lyrics? Could I get a band together? Yeah. Could I corral them to make them play in the style that I heard in my head? Me being from Detroit, music is my take on what makes cool rock and roll is a little different than West Coast.
Sure.
Detroit is harder edged. It's Bob Seger. It's Ted Nugent. It's the MC5. It's Iggy Pop. And it may not be pretty, but it sure pounds you in the face.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get these LA guys that I know to make these rhythms that were tight and pounding and driving.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wanted
totally.
The music to have the drive. Like they say, the Motor City. Music also has to have the drive So Detroit music has the drive, and I think I captured it on the album. We cut the whole album as live as you could. We rehearsed it right here, and then we didn't do any demos. We didn't get artsy or cutesy with it at all. We just went from here down the street to where my buddy, who's also we grew up together in Michigan. He has a little studio in a barn, and we set up my old amp pegs, my old Marshalls, and my drum set, and we faced them at me. And I didn't even wear headphones. They didn't even wear headphones. I heard their amps. They heard my drums. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that's one of the things I had remarked was that the whole album seems like really, really, really live. Like you guys were there, present, making it, all in once. Not too many layers, overdubs, that kind of stuff. And it seemed like it was just like a fun experience to record this album.
Yeah, to me, when you start layering things on, things actually get smaller, and they can sound less heavy.
Right.
Great records. When I listen to great records, if you listen to just earlier rock, sometimes there's not even a rhythm guitar track under the solo, or there's one guitar track and maybe one little chucky extra thing. And I didn't want to have a whole bunch of layers on it, because that can thin it out to me, and it can make it less raw. So that was on purpose.
Yeah, cool.
And I didn't want to pay another guy. Who am I kidding?
Yeah, exactly, right. Well, I think you nailed what you tried to do with it. It's a really, really fun album. I really, really, really love all of it. Now, how did you connect with Eric? Because I'm a big fan of his when he was in Slash the Snake Pit. I've been following it ever since. And sort of, he seems like a good guy to fit with the stuff that you were doing.
I just went like this. I went and I held a bunch of $100 bills in front of his face. No, I've known Eric for a long time, though. We played together in Alice Cooper's band.
Okay, yeah.
And I always liked Eric. Eric is wackier than I am. I'm a pretty straight-laced guy, and he has this avant-garde side to him. And his voice is so unique. But I knew that it would fit in this straight rock thing that I was doing, because at the bottom of the day, he's a kick-ass, straight-ahead rock and roll singer, and he just sang his ass up. So I know him from back then.
Cool. Now, as much as I like him and all the work that he did on the album, some of my favorite songs actually on the album are the ones that you actually chose to sing. So why did you?
I liked you. I knew we connected.
Why did you choose those particular songs to sing yourself as opposed to Eric?
Well, I didn't even set out to sing at all on this album, because, as you can tell after you listen to the songs, I'm not a singer. But I was doing what they call scratch vocals for the album, which are kind of like guide tracks. So I can say, here, Eric, this is the melody, and here's the words, and this is what I want. And then he did a great job. He just did it. He's great in the studio. But there was a few songs. There was the 3 songs that I ended up being the lead vocalist on. There was something about them, and I go, hey man, that kind of works. There's something just laid. When I was doing the scratch vocals, I was sitting on a couch with a regular SM57 $80 microphone,
Right.
And I didn't care. And there was something cool in it. And on top of that, so I just left it. I go, that sounds cool, just leave it. Sometimes if it sounds cool to me, even if there's mistakes, some of the younger guys on the album are like, well, I made a mistake. And I go, I don't care.
Yeah.
The vibe is there.
The feel is there,
Nobody's going to hear if you hit one wrong note. We'll cover it up with something. Who cares? I'm not doing it again.
Right, yeah.
It's about the vibe, you know what I mean?
That's right, yeah,
when
absolutely.
It's too perfect, it loses it.
And it's too perfect, it loses the emotion.
On those songs, I go, the vibe's there, done. Eric doesn't need to sing anymore, and it's finished. So that was how that happened, a real thought-out process.
Okay.
And on top of that, one song is I wrote it about my lovely wife, who's the sexiest goddess I could ever hope for, who's the best mother and the best person. So I'm not good at writing love letters or sending Valentine's Day cards. So I wrote her a rock and roll sexy song just for her. So I had to sing that song.
Cool.
Right? And then the last song on the album is called The Power of Three.
Yeah.
We have a 4-year-old daughter called June Grace Clufetos, and I wrote that song about us having our daughter.
Oh, okay.
And so I go, I have to sing that song. And she absolutely loves it. So maybe when she's 30, 35, and she gets married, and she'll listen to that song that Daddy wrote for her. And
that's awesome.
That's a reason to sing if there ever was.
Totally, absolutely. And it's Mother's Day weekend coming up, so your album comes up on Friday.
I still gotta go get that.
Present already done.
She's already heard it. So
now I
gotta go blow $200 on some mad roses and chocolate.
yeah, exactly. Now, album comes out on Friday. When was it recorded?
It was recorded maybe August, September, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember. It seems like it's been a while now. But we recorded the whole thing from first note to mastering in 2 weeks.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we really knocked it out very quickly. I didn't want to spend a lot of time, and we would do like 4 songs a day, the rhythm section, and then Eric came and sang, and we did a little quick mix. I didn't make a big deal about it, even though I'm very intense when I'm there. But when you kind of think too much and take it back and listen to it and sit on it, I'm more in the moment, like, hey, this sounds good, just go. Because to me, it's just it's a moment in time. It can always be different. That being said, if something bothers you and it's not right in a bad way, of course you fix it. But I like to do it quickly, because to me the greatest rock records were done quickly.
Sure, absolutely.
And there's an urgency to that. And I really wanted to capture a rock and roll spirit. And I think there's too much overdubs, and there's too many click tracks, and there's too many loops underneath, and there's too many Bon Jovi sounding drum sets where it sounds like you're at Shea Stadium, or like drums don't sound that way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
If you listen to some of your favorite records, it's not that the instrument sounds so great; it's that the group is playing great together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's actually one of the things I like about this album so much, is that it does have that raw feeling, back to where, like, back in the old Aerosmith albums and things like that you get that feel back of what it's like.
That was the vibe. I'm glad you said that. That's the vibe I was after. Like I said, we recorded in the same room, so the bass amp is going into my drum mics. The drums are going into the guitar mic, and it creates this big. Yeah. It creates more of a sound to me versus.
For sure.
There's the drums, there's the bass,
Yeah, it definitely has a sound that's completely unique for for today's day and age, right? So, totally cool, right? And I hope people appreciate it when they hear it. And
yeah, I was talking to my buddy yesterday, and he goes, "Yeah, your album's really cool, and I like it, but I don't think people are gonna like it," which I took it as a compliment, because it's not what's in vogue. Straight rock is not like. Especially unknown, like,
for sure.
There's lots of retro rock bands out there, but to me, it's kind of wimpy.
Yeah.
My music, this is not wimpy. This, to me, I put it on in any track you could open the show with, or you could close the show with.
Yeah, absolutely, totally.
And no slow songs.
Yeah, exactly. No ballads.
No.
It's awesome, killer stuff. Now, you recorded in August. Did you have any impacts because of COVID?
Don't quote me on that. It may have been after. Maybe it was September. I honestly don't.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. But just obviously the pandemic, COVID was ongoing. Did you have any impacts in terms of the recording process because of COVID?
Nah, I just made the guys wash their hands and
Cool.
It was all good.
Yeah.
I mean, studios were shut down and everything was shut down, but I did it I recorded at my buddy's barn down the street.
Cool. And the taking back to the 70s, kind of, when I rethought about the name Tommy's RockTrip, it was kind of like you wanted to take us back to back to the trip, like back to the '70s kind of thing. And is that why you called it Tommy's Rock Trip, or what was the
No,
thought process behind the
it's
name?
not that I wanted to get. I didn't want. It's not my goal to go retro. My goal is to me that's how I hear the rock and roll in my head.
Yeah.
And if you call that retro, fine. But I like the approach of when bands were these organic things. I don't think that. I don't even think it really sounds retro. It just sounds raw.
It sounds raw, yeah.
Which today is retro because nobody's very raw.
Because nobody's doing it.
Nobody's raw. I mean, even like these retro bands. I mean, it's just like their guitar amps are playing with these pedals, and it sounds processed. And man, I'm very into like tones and stuff. I was getting the guitar tones, and they're all my old Marshalls, and they're all my old Ampegs,
cool.
And they're all my own drums because these young guys don't have this stuff.
Right.
And I'm into it, and I can't even play a lick on the guitar. But there's something to be said about the right amp and the right drums, and kind of just why get like a big rack thing that sounds like a Marshall? No, I'm gonna get the Marshall. Because when you crank that thing up and you feel it in the room, and I'm playing, and the air's moving, it makes me play a certain way. And I wanted the instruments to sound a certain way to get the vibe and inspire the music.
Cool.
That's why I'm not against, but for my style, this new stuff, you don't feel it in the room. Yeah, they say it's all sounds the same, but does it feel the same? There's something to be said for that.
Totally, 100%. You can definitely feel it for sure.
I went off your question there. You said
that's okay.
Was I purposely going for retro? No, I was just going for what I felt at the time. Maybe I'm just retro in my approach, is what it is.
Yeah, I think so. I think you were trying to get the feel, and not necessarily a retro kind of story, but just the feel, which is awesome. Which I think is gonna translate well to people when they hear it. Changing tracks a little bit.
You're asking about the RockTrip. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
Well, I just looked at it. First of all, my name does not lend itself to an album. My last name, Clufetos. But Tommy's RockTrip is just like my jam band. Like, not like a trip like an LSD trip. It's just my thing, my way. It's my rock trip.
Right. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, that's his trip. Oh, that's his trip. Not like a literal trip.
Yeah.
It's my bag. If
cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does actually.
That's kind of the meaning, if there is one, and it sounds cool.
Cool. Yeah. That it does for sure. Now, changing gears a little bit, you've had a lot of really cool experiences playing for some really cool people. You've recorded a couple of cool albums with the folks as well. What would you say your career highlight is to date?
I don't look at it that way. I've had ups, I've had downs, I've had extreme ups, I've had extreme downs, and it's all the journey.
Yeah.
To me, I don't look, and this may sound goofy, but most people, well, wouldn't you say Black Sabbath? Of course, playing with Black Sabbath is great. But it was a high point to me when I first was a young kid, and I put my drums, set them up myself at a shit bar when there was nobody there, and I saw one light shining on my cymbals for the first time, and I got through the gig, and I tore them down, and I put them in the station wagon. I was successful then, and I'm successful now. So, and the approach was the same thing. I tried my best then as I try my best now. So I don't have what I consider, this is my favorite song or that's my favorite gig. It's this one big journey to me that I've been on since I picked up the drumsticks.
Cool.
If that makes sense, because if I pick favorites, then what's the point in all? It's like you didn't enjoy all the
journey. Ride. Yeah, for sure.
That's how I look at it. So
that's cool. Actually, your mindset around that is kind of unique. I mean, I don't get that very much when I ask that question. So that is cool. I mean, you look at it as a whole, and and the journey is just as important as each individual destination. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but more so, it's because it's a craft that I look at it. It's my craft. I'm a drummer, and it's an endless. You know, my dad's a musician, and my uncle, God rest his soul, he passed away a few years from cancer. He played until he died. He was a musician in New Orleans, and it was just he was about the music. And I watched my dad and I watched my uncle at how they approach things, and they didn't hit it what you would say make it big. Yeah. You don't know them, but they were respected.
Right.
And that's what I want. It's cool being interviewed and it's cool playing on big stages, but that's not what it's about. To me, it's that I got to play with those great musicians.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, having first class this and great, it's all awesome. But I think I appreciate it a little more because I've done all this other stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Years and years before, I slept in the vans. I pumped the equipment. I didn't have roadies.
Yeah.
You had to go through the back door because you were a musician, and played 5 sets a night for 10 years. And it's like when you grind it out, and then you kind of get a little. It's never easy, but you appreciate those good things.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. That's cool, man. Like I love to hear your perspective on that because that's definitely slightly different story than you get from most people. So that's really cool. Now changing tracks a little bit again. So it was announced a little while ago that you were back drumming for the Dead Daisies, taking over for Dean Castronovo. What sort of enticed you back into the Daisies?
Well, they were looking for a drummer, and I was free to go play. So I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense now, doesn't it? I'm a musician. That's what I do for a living.
Right.
And we have some gigs coming up mid-June to mid-July in the Midwest. We're going to go do some warm-up dates and try out some new songs and kind of see what this lineup sounds like together. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. Yeah, I was talking to Doug Aldridge shortly after that you were announced as the drummer, and he was saying he was really looking forward to playing with you as well. And
that's
so
because he's a very smart guy.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to playing with him too. I'm looking forward to doing these rehearsals and go and do some gigs.
Yeah, well, I definitely look forward to the opportunity to get to see you guys play live, as well here in the coming months. Hopefully, when the border opens up a little bit. What are some of the Daisy songs you're looking forward to playing live?
Yeah, I just like again, I don't have favorites. I just want to make that set as powerful as it can be from first note to last note.
Right. Yeah, cool.
And then go to the next one.
Yeah. And have you guys settled on a set list yet for that?
Nah, not yet. No, you kind of do that when sometimes you don't settle on the set list till you go on stage.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. With all of the COVID restrictions and stuff like that, though, I mean, you and the rest of the guys have got to be itching to get back on the road, though, do some touring and do some playing.
Absolutely, it's been a bit for me since I've been on stage, so I think all the songs are going to be really, really fast.
Yeah, really intense, right? Yeah, everybody's so happy, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I finally got my second shot the other day.
That's great.
I'm ready to go play with a bunch of booze hounds in a bar.
That's awesome. I can't wait. So that's great. Now after a show, I had the fortune of being backstage at a couple of Dead Daisies shows on the last tour, and everybody was like, you're jazzed, you're full of adrenaline and that kind of stuff. I'm sure that would be the same for you. What's your process, or what do you like to do to wind down after a show?
I'm pretty mellow after a gig.
Oh yeah?
I like to go. I go back to my room and I shut the door and that's it. I look at it as not in a bad way, but it's my job. I clock in, and then when you're done, you clock out and then you turn off showbiz. That's
Cool.
how it works for me.
Oh,
You know,
that's
I
great.
mean, I don't even like the term showbiz, but you got to have bravado when you get on stage.
Sure.
You got to have ego, which I think is good, and you want to be this machine up there. But when it's done, I'm just a normal guy. I gotta, make my daughter breakfast and pick up her toys, and me and my wife yell at each other just like everybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I go back to my room and I just try to leave it there, because it's
cool.
You can take yourself a little too seriously if you're trying to keep the rock and roll thing going.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a very rock and roll guy on stage, but I'm the exact opposite off stage.
Cool.
I'm very mellow. I like to be home, and the other stuff doesn't concern me.
Sounds like
I'll leave that for the kids.
It sounds like a very healthy approach, to take for the long term, for sure. So just changing it, like, I know I'm sensitive at the time here.
Change away, my man.
So just a couple of little quick ones for you here. What was the first album you ever bought?
First album I ever bought with my own money?
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty damn sure it was an Elvis Presley record, and I remember it had Kentucky Rain on it.
Okay.
I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was a compilation. I don't know, but I remember buying it. It was Huey Lewis or Elvis in my hand, which was probably cassettes at Kmart, and I bought Elvis.
Cool. Now, what about the first concert and the first band T-shirt you ever bought?
First concert, when my dad took me to see all the greats. My dad took me to see Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, James Brown, at the Michigan State Fair when I was younger. At Fox Theater, I saw all these guys, and he played on the same shows because he had a band that would back all these 50s and 60s thing, which is how I started. But those were my first concerts, and to me, they're the best ones I've ever seen. I've seen Jerry Lee Lewis. He's drunk on stage, and he's playing 45 minutes of just country ballads.
Yeah.
And the audience is going, "What's going on?" And then he kicks in to one of the hits, and they go extra crazy.
For sure.
And there's a magic that these guys had, and some people, I notice a lot of people nowadays, they don't get what those guys were about. They had danger and unexpectedness, and they think it's very simple what they were doing, because it's like 1-4-5 rock or blues bass, but they were so much higher level as entertainers and musicians that they're stylists. It can't be copied.
Yeah.
And a lot of the bands that I love, that we're talking about, the 70s rock, it was connected to that stuff. Yeah. So I think that's why the music was better back then. But those were the first concerts that I went to see.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, Tommy, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you probably have other interviews lined up, but I definitely thank you very much for taking the time today to meet with me.
My pleasure, Corey.
And for everybody out there listening and watching, you got to check out Tommy's RockTrip. It's out on Friday.
It's the best record ever made. Is that what you would say?
It's the greatest raw record you will have heard in a long time.
That's not what I said, Corey. That's not what I said.
It's a great record for sure.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Corey.
Thanks a lot, guys.
The clouds parting and us coming and rock and rolling your brains out.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.